Jenny Kissed Me. The Cairns Library back in 1967 was above a cafe on the main street. It had wide and open verandas with canvas squatters' chairs for readers to relax in while the cooling breeze, smelling faintly of mangroves, blew in from the esplanade. I was there, not so much to read as to find a cool, quiet spot to fill in some time while I waited for a friend. The only other people there were a young librarian filling books and two gentlemen facing each other across a chessboard. I took up a book at random. It was poetry, not really my style, but I only wanted something light in case my friend came and I had no hope of finishing an unread story. I remember the poem, Jenny Kissed Me. Say I'm weary, say I'm sad, say health and wealth have missed me, say I'm growing old, but add, Jenny kissed me. I thought it was sweet that through all this man's life he would remember that highlight of when this girl kissed him. Without much interest, I glanced at the chessboard. Neither of the men said anything. They seemed not to notice anything else around them. One fellow looked bulky with dark threatening eyes and a bushy beard. The other was quieter and slim. I nicknamed the big fellow the Russian. His moves were full of menace, the way he grabbed at pieces, the way he towered mentally over his opponent. I was feeling so sorry for the other player because there was a quiet desperation in him, like an animal that has no escape. At last there was no escape, and the Russian spat, "Checkmate!" His opponent was visibly upset. The Russian challenged him again, but the loser had had enough and left without a word. I put my head into poetry once more. The Russian's blood was up. He was full of challenge. "Excusez, do you play? I saw you watching. Would you like to play?" I did not want to. I was a very young beginner at the game, and he was intimidating. The Russian would not give up. I was embarrassed and explained that I did not think my playing would be much of a challenge. "Nonsense!" he roared in that heavy accented voice that made the heart quail. "Come, we play." I remembered the look on his departed opponent's face and thought to myself how much I would like to see this man lose. I had an awful feeling that I did not stand a chance, but like a mouse kicking an elephant, I accepted. He had already set up the board, and with no preliminaries we began. I did not know what I was doing. My only experience was when I had played my younger brother. He always won. And when I was staying with the Wellses family. Mr. Wells had an awful temper, but loved chess, so that when he was in one of his really nasty moods, Mrs. Wells would take me aside and say, "Go on, love, play chess with him. He settles down when he has something else to think about." That was all very well. If I lost, Mr. Wells was in a great mood for hours afterwards, but if I won, we suffered even worse tirades. I had learnt to watch for body signals more than chess moves. Mr. Wells's chain smoked. The way he held his cigarette showed me when it was safe to throw the game. If his hand movements were slow, the cigarette loosely balanced between the joints of his second and third fingers, then I was to play harder so that he got tense and worried. Once he started pinching the stub of his cigarette tightly with the tips of his middle finger and his thumb and taking short, nervous puffs, I knew it was safe to let him win. It was a delicate balance. Too easy a win, and he was upset. Not to win at all was a disaster, and it all had to be exactly timed and balanced so that he thought he had done a great job. I guess my style of playing was unorthodox to say the least. My plan with the Russian was just to try my best, but of course to let him win. It was the only style of game I knew. The Russian was relaxed and confident. I lost a night early on, and I saw the look of triumph excite his eyes. He leaned back in his chair and waved an annoying fly from his brow. I knew he was winning too easily. I did not know any of the textbook moves. All my moves were originals. No plan, just a desperate defence. I began moving chaotically, no rhyme or reason. The Russian sat up. This was new. He searched for logic in what I did. How was he to know there was none? His queen went down, mine too, but I liked the end of the game best. There were fewer pieces to worry about. I went wild. Suddenly, without warning, he was in check. I was surprised. I had not even planned that, but there it was. Even more surprising, there was no escape. It was checkmate. The Russian leapt to his feet. "Do you know who I am? Have you no idea?" I said that I did not. "I am Mikhail Petrovznia. I was Hungarian national champion in 1960, 1961 and 1962. How could you beat me? Where did you learn to play like that?" I tried to calm him. "We have to play again. Sit, sit." I did not want to play again, but it seemed unsporting to leave him so agitated. We set up the board once more, and this time it was not even a contest. He walked all over me. I did not want to win, but that is a coward's statement. Even if I had had fight in me, he would have won. This time his moves were automatic, as though it was rehearsed. Textbook stuff, classic. "Checkmate." I nodded. There was nothing left to say. His ego was mended, and I had an appointment to keep. I left. It is 30 years since I played that game. I still play chess. Now I know more about classical style. I know the King's Indian attack and Lopez's defence. I know forks, pins and skewers. I have joined different clubs around the country. But when I get defeated really badly and go off to lick my wounded ego, I have one lasting line. Say this, say I win, say I lose, but say this too. I once beat the Hungarian champion of 1960, 61 and 62.